The Halfbrick Show.
Welcome to the Halfbrick Show, your one-stop shop for anything Halfbrick related. The games, the lore, the random fan theory about rascals that may or may not be canon, it's all here. I'm Aiden, and thanks so much for joining us for another episode.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carmen from Marketing and Graphic Design. And yeah, I'm happy to be here as always. You're sounding great today, Aiden.
Oh, thanks, Carmen. Yeah, since you've been co-hosting, you haven't said that producer line. Thank you. Same to you.
No worries.
Yeah. No, in the past couple of episodes, we've touched on some fan theories and general lore, like madness across Halfbrick. I feel like there's always questions around that. So today we're going to try to settle as many scores as possible because we've invited what we'd call a super special guest who's played a big part in bits of Halfbrick history here and there. Very keen to talk to him.
Who the brick are you?
Cool. Welcome, Brendan. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate getting you on. I feel like getting guests on the podcast is like a line of people that we have like a jetpack gun aimed at, and they got to try and run away before we get them on the podcast. So I really appreciate you coming and sitting with us today. Can you tell us a bit about yourself? Like, I guess if you want to say where you're from, what you do, but specifically Halfbrick stuff, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, sure. I'm from Adelaide in Australia. I started off for Halfbrick as a concept artist, so designing environments and characters and all of that sort of stuff. From then I moved into art direction, and then eventually production direction, and that kind of naturally progressed into writing and storytelling in that way as well. So right now I'm sort of cut between, I do art and direction, all of that stuff still, but I also kind of manage the story and lore and all of that stuff at Halfbrick as well. So yeah, a few different things.
Nice. Magic words. Manage, touch the lore. That's the big one.
Yeah.
How long have you been with Halfbrick? Sorry, I don't actually know.
It's about 10.5 years now. Yeah, so quite a while. I've always been remote though, so yeah, being from Adelaide, I wasn't around for the when the Brisbane studio was around, but yeah, so working from home even before COVID, before it was cool. So yeah, it's been a while.
Was it like the same, or did it change a lot when pandemic stuff caused? Or have you just been doing the same?
I felt a bit more seen when the pandemic happened, because people started to. Before that, you couldn't complain about working from home because people were like, you got it easy, But when a lot of people started working from home and they had all these complaints, I felt vindicated because, not that working from home is bad, but it has unique challenges and they were hard to express before COVID. So I feel a bit more seen after the epidemic.
Yeah, you definitely were a trendsetter. I feel like everyone came at you for tips. a sad trend, but still a trend. So there's one question that we always ask guests at the beginning of our episodes, which is, what's your favorite game?
Yeah, any game, not just Halfbrick game.
Any
game. Yeah. There's a few, but I think Diablo 2 has to be probably the favorite. I mean, that was the game that was the big one when I was at high school. So I have a lot of good memories of sitting around with my friends playing that one. I liked it single player. I liked all the different elements, like collecting all the armor and the weapons and, all those different monsters, that's right up my alley. But so yeah, it was good single player, but it was also fun to do with your friends too. And yeah, when I think about games that I grew up with and that really stuck with me, Diablo 2 really sticks out.
And was that the game that inspired you to get into the gaming industry, or how was your journey getting here, more or less?
It wasn't the game, but it certainly was one of them. I always liked drawing. That was always what sort of drew me to the creative industries. I was that kid at school that, if there was a project and someone needed something drawn, then they would come to me. I was just the drawing nerd, I guess. But I remember looking at. I had a neighbor who he had a game called The Conquest of the Longbow. It's a really old Sierra game. I was too young to play it. But that was in the day when, games couldn't tell you everything in the game. They didn't have the graphics and all that. So a lot of games came with a really thick manual to do some heavy lifting story-wise. And there was that game, and there was another game that some other people had called Eye of the Beholder. It was a D&D game, but I just remember those two specifically for having really cool manuals, and I would just flip through those manuals and look at the different art and monsters, and they had things like different trees and different gems, and all these different things had different effects, and I used to love looking through all of that stuff. And I guess that was the real sort of marriage between drawing and art and all of these cool images of monsters, and also the world building side of things, where all that stuff came together to just make an awesome world, I guess. I always used to love the world building aspect of it, so that's probably
those. That's cool.
The manuals is probably the first time I really, well, I would have been very young, but first time I realized, like, wow, there's people that their job is to make this kind of stuff. So I knew pretty early on that I wanted to do that in some capacity, whether it was for games or TV or whatever. As long as I'm drawing and making up cool stuff, then I'm happy.
And you got there, which is incredible as well.
Yeah, very grateful to have been able to do that so far. So yeah.
No, that's amazing, and you were such a focused kid as well. I would imagine that most kids want to be pirates or veterinarians, or
well, there was a lot
something
of
like
that. Yeah, there was that. I mean, I've told you the condensed version that makes me sound really like focused from early on, but I mean, it was all over the place. But looking back, I just remember that as being the one of the main instigating moments, whether I realized it at the time or not.
Yeah.
We really need more manuals in things. To go on a slight tangent.
Yeah, bring back the manual. I love it.
The manual. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we bring this?
I still have some on my phone. I've downloaded the PDFs, and I flip through them every now and then when I need a bit of inspiration, because I just love that feel of the old game manual.
Do you have a favorite game manual? Is that a stretch?
Well, it's the ones I said before. Conquest of the Longbow, I remember it being
that's right there. Yeah.
a big one. Just because, it felt like a storybook in itself. It was just really cool.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll have to look that up. Conquest of the Longbow, was it?
Yeah, it's an old Sierra point-and-click adventure game. Again, I was a bit too young to play it, but yeah, I just remember. I even asked my neighbor. He's like a 30-year-old guy, and I was like maybe 9. I said, "Can I borrow this? I just wanted the book. I didn't want the game." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, sure, take it." Like, he didn't really know why I wanted it, but I just remember, sitting at home flipping through that.
No, awesome.
Yeah, and when you are not campaigning for game manuals to come back, which we support, by the way, that's a petition, official petition here from the Halfbrick Show. What are you working on at the moment in Halfbrick?
Well, I've actually just come back from some holidays, but before that, I was working mainly on Bluey's quest for the gold pen, which, it was a great experience. Like I said, I've been at Halfbrick for a long time, and I've been working on Jetpack and Fruit Ninja and a lot of the cool stuff that we do here. But working on Bluey was something different, and obviously it's a huge IP, and I got to contribute to that in a writing capacity, which is a pretty rare opportunity. For something as huge as Bluey, and something that's really, I guess, protected and a much loved IP, and to be able to contribute to that in a writing capacity was a huge opportunity, and something that I'm really grateful to be able to have been able to do. So that was great.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's actually pretty awesome. I knew you were involved. I actually just forgot the exact contribution, so that's very exciting. Was there any secret stuff? I feel like there's always some secret project that you've got lined up coming forward.
Secret projects,
I suppose. Yeah.
I don't know if it's secret. It's just too early to talk about. Really, I've learned very early on not to talk too much about things that I'm working on, because it tends to drain inspiration. Like, if you spill the beans too early and you don't get the right reaction, then it kind of flattens your motivation a bit, which is a bad habit. You shouldn't rely on other people pepping you up for projects. But
I get it. Yeah.
Also,
no, we
things
were
change.
just fishing for a leak.
Yeah. Yeah. Things change
that's a
anyway.
good
So
point.
the second you describe a project, the next week it's going to change completely. So it's good not to be bound to those things early on.
Yeah. It's like I don't know, going on a diet or going to the gym or something like that, and like telling everyone you're gonna do it, and then
Yeah, exactly.
it's gone. Yeah. Okay. One game I didn't hear you mention, but I know for a fact because it's one of my favorite videos I've seen on the Halfbrick channel. There's a gibberish documentary trailer that I'm pretty sure. Did you like solo create that one? Was that all pretty much just you, or
No, that was directed and made mainly by the other Brendan, Brendan Shoemaker at Halfbrick. Yeah, he was the vision holder behind that. And when he pitched the idea of sort of like a fake documentary, I put my hand up because I really like that style of humor, and I grew up watching Sean McAuliffe and all of his like fake documentary stuff. So yeah, I've always been a fan of that. So to have the opportunity to try something like that out was just a bit of fun.
Yeah. Okay, that one's really cool. Plug for that one if you haven't played Gibberish or watched that. If anyone's listening, look up Gibberish Halfbrick. You probably have to put Halfbrick on there. Very slept on game. I just gotta say. Yeah, very cool.
With one of the cutest characters as well, at least in my opinion. Yeah. So on that note of cutest characters, as an expert, or at least as someone who has been here for a long time and probably knows a lot of lore, which Halfbrick game, in your opinion, has the best lore? Maybe it's Gibberish.
Best lore, yeah, it's a hard one to answer. I mean, there's good lore for different reasons. I think being behind the scenes on it, I think Fruit Ninja has some very good lore that I don't think has even come out. We write a lot of Bibles and game documentation for ourselves internally, and that's something that we refer to when we're making new events or releasing new things. And a lot of that stuff, doesn't get released. It's just for us. But over the years, there's been quite a few iterations on the Fruit Ninja lore, and it's nowhere near completed, or it's not distilled to its final form yet. But yes, some of the most fun I've had just world building and designing things has been with Fruit Ninja. But you may not know it yet, or see a lot of the stuff that we've worked on yet. But I am hoping that one day we can see that in a more complete form publicly, because there was some really good stuff written for that, and it was really fun designing that world. So
can you share a piece of it or a piece of trivia that people might not know that you're allowed by the ninja gods to share?
I'm not sure what I am and am allowed and not allowed to say, but we mucked around with the idea of different kingdoms in the Fruit Ninja world. There was like the Berry Kingdom and the Melon Lands and all of this sort of stuff, and that was good fun because it was just straight world building. It's like, what happens in the Melon Lands? What do they wear? Who's the king? All that sort of stuff, and that's the stuff I love doing. I, even more than actually writing the story itself, I just like setting up the worlds and what's their logo? What do they have on their banners? That kind of thing. So that was good
cool.
fun.
I think that would be great to see. I think when I first started at Halfbrick, I had a little peek at there's an archive, and I swear I saw some Fruit Ninja lore that I hadn't seen anywhere else. So yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff floating around. It's has to be sort of brought together and refined, but yeah, that's a task that's always on the list, and one day we'll get to it. But yeah, it'll be good fun when we do.
Who knows? Maybe Halfbrick Plus cards have some lore on the cards. Maybe we could get some association there to get that rolling. I don't know. I'm just saying it, hoping it wills it to exist. Yeah, okay, that's fair. So within that 10 years, do you have any count of like how many different Halfbrick projects you've contributed to? There's a lot.
I couldn't tell you what the exact number is, but I think, I've probably contributed to all of them in some capacity. I work in a marketing capacity too, so there's some things where I've just might be as simple as making a trailer for it or something like that. So I don't necessarily write everything on every project, but yeah, I think it'd be hard to find a Halfbrick project that I haven't at least done something on. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's so
Nah,
many
that's
now,
super cool.
I honestly lose count. There's stuff I look
Yeah.
at in old hard drives and go, oh yeah, I forgot we worked on that. It was like 6 years ago.
And you're like in the credits as sole content. It's like, oh, I didn't even know I touched this one. No. Nah. That is
Sometimes,
super
yeah.
cool. Radical Repelling, did you touch that one? That's one of my favorite. More
That's a
underrated
good
ones
point.
these
Yeah, that
days.
might be one of the only ones I didn't like. That was a little bit before my time, I
Oh.
think, with Halfbrick. I can't remember when that came out, but I remember
Yeah, neither can I.
I remember playing it a lot. That was one of my favorite Halfbrick ones.
Mm,
Yeah, it's good fun, that one. Underrated.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't work on the game itself, but I have memories of working with the characters, so I think I've done stuff with those characters in crossover
Mm.
things and stuff like that. So did I work on it? No, but kind of, yeah. And you know, that's why it's weird, you know. Like I said, I've been across kind of everything in a weird way, so it's hard to
Yeah.
keep count.
Yeah, there are a lot of characters and projects as well. So I think we all understand. If you had full creative control and freedom to make any project or game in any kind of medium, do you have an idea of what it would be and why?
Any kind of medium. I've always thought, like, in Lord of the Rings, right? You see Bilbo's book on the table, and he's
Mm.
written his life story and all about all his adventures and stuff. And he's like drawn little pictures and just, you know, kept a journal basically. To me, that's the dream project. It's just walk around, have adventures, draw pictures, write the story,
Oh.
and then, you know, then you can leave the world with your big, thick tome full of all your weird wisdom.
Mm. So like a
That'd be
real
awesome. It's not a job, it's not a project, but you know,
It's a
if
project.
yeah.
if it's just pure fantasy, then that's the thing. Like, there's a book I really like. It's called The Book of Beasts by a writer called T.H. White. He did some sort of the sort of in the stone stuff and a few other things too. But it's basically a translation of a medieval bestiary, but a real one from I'm not even sure of the year. But it's one of my favorite books because it's so hilarious. Because a lot of the time these things are written by monks who don't actually really know what they're talking about. They're giving secondhand accounts, and you know, they're trying to write factual information about these animals that they've never seen, and they don't know how they operate.
Mm.
And I really like that kind of thing because, you know, we live in an age now where you can look up anything instantly and you get all the factual information. But I kind of like when people just guessed, you know, at times, and like not made stuff up, not deliberately lied, but you know, you could kind of see the world through their lens a little bit, and there was a bit of mystery in it all. And when they tried to make factual things, it was really not very factual at all. But again, not because they were deliberately deceptive, but because they were filtering it through their own lens because information was incomplete. And I love that. You know, that's cool. It's just the world according to this guy or to that guy or to that guy. And, you know, just to be dumped in a wilderness somewhere and walk around and just having to try and work things out and write it down and draw pictures of things that you thought you saw, but maybe didn't, you know, just that kind of stuff is super cool. Yeah.
Like a
so,
source of like truth in air quotes.
yeah. So just to unplug and like be dumped in a forest and be a hermit writing about weird things I saw at night would be a dream job, I think.
That'd be so cool. If it was like no, like you said, no technology, and you had this chance to write this giant journal. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just trying
What would you
berries,
say
seeing
about
if they're
cars
poisonous.
and like berries, like things that without the education we wouldn't know. Interesting.
Would you do it in Australia? Because there are a lot of weird animals in there.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't want to do it in Australia just because of the heat and the desert and all of that. That thing's a myth about Australian animals. I think North American animals are way scarier. They have bears and stuff that will actually eat you, actual monsters.
I have to agree.
As long as you stay out of the grass in Australia, you'll be fine.
Yep.
That's fair. That's something that I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but I feel like I was lied to by the internet and by some people who just hyped me up about poisonous snakes and giant spiders and whatever. And
Yeah.
then it
I mean,
was
they're
fine.
dangerous, but they don't want to eat you. There's stuff in other countries that actually want to eat you. And the stuff that we do have that wants to eat you, like crocodiles and sharks, a lot of other places have those too, so they're not unique.
Yeah. Yeah, they lied to you, Carmen. We weren't even upside down. I
No,
don't know.
no, I didn't look at the toilet water either. So I
Well, what's the
I
toilet water?
can't.
What is that one? I don't even know what that
Oh,
is.
you haven't seen that Simpsons episode?
No, I'm sorry. My Simpsons
Classic.
references aren't up to it. I gotta
Yeah,
one day watch all of the Simpsons again.
look at it. Look at it.
Okay.
I'm sure there's someone in the comments that can explain it to you, or I'll
Yeah,
explain
no.
it to you after we finish the recording.
Look, I'll add it to my list of shows, right next to the rest of the lists of things to do at some point. uh, Brendan, do you have any? This is something I feel like you may have had like the chance to do specifically in your role. Have you ever got the chance to leave like little Easter eggs or inside jokes in content that you've had a hand in or been across?
Yeah, I mean, there's always, when you're writing stuff, ideas always come to you, you know. It's Easter eggs are good because it's a way to kind of recycle stuff. You describe it as an Easter egg, but really you're just out of ideas, so you're putting the same stuff in again.
Yeah.
But yeah, not entirely, but there's a few memes that crop up every now and then. Like I always like referencing Barry's favorite meme of the fat cat getting stuck in the cat door.
Yeah.
It's always funny when you can insert that somewhere, but yeah, Easter eggs are cool, and then they're not, because sometimes, you know, it's always the stuff that you don't think people are paying attention to that they do pay attention to, and then suddenly, you know, something that you wrote as a throwaway joke is something that everybody wants to see back in, and you kind of think, oh well, I was not prepared to expand upon that concept. You know, it was just a throwaway thing. But
It gets like its own
yeah, so you got to be
fandom
careful
page
with
or
Easter
something.
eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. The stuff you don't think anyone will remember is exactly the things that they will remember forever. So yeah, Easter eggs are powerful. You got to be careful with them.
Wise.
Twice, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have collected a few community questions for you. Thank you so much to everyone in our Discord who has participated. We have read all of your questions. We will be saving them and storing some of them for future guests. So don't be surprised if a question you made that was relevant to maybe some other project pops up on a future episode. But today we only have time for a few. So the first one is related to the Barry blogs. I understand you participated on that, right? Just checking.
To a point. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Mr. Yord, sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly, said, is Barry blog still canon to Jetpack Joyride, or does its canonicity, wow, complicated word, only partially apply like Barry's full name?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Complicated is probably the right word there. It's funny with that process. I mean, we came up with the idea, you know, a long time ago now, so it's hard to even remember a lot of the lead up to that. But we actually handed that over to Barry himself, the person who does Barry's voice, and let them run with it. So it's not really an exaggeration to say that Barry himself wrote these things and did a lot of this ad lib. Like, you know, we'd get general outlines and he would just run with it. So the thing about Barry, I mean, if you know Barry, he tends to exaggerate, and you know, he makes up stuff, and you know, he's not the most reliable witness at the best of times. So anything Barry says, I wouldn't take it as canon just from him. You know, he'd favor a good story more than he would a proper recount of actual events. So if you're watching Barry and he's telling you about stuff that happened and about his backstory, always just kind of know that maybe Barry is exaggerating just a little bit. So I wouldn't automatically assume anything he says is canon, especially in those vlogs.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
love an
that's fair.
unreliable narrator.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
like
but
it.
that's why Barry. That's why you like
Yeah.
Barry. He prefers a good story more than anything else. So, yeah, just don't believe him 100%. Is my advice.
I'm going to put you on the spot with a question. Do you remember the full name that he's got off the top of your head? I actually can't, so I just want to see if either of you
Yeah,
guys
of course.
remember.
Yeah, but I'm not
Do you
going to tell you it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look it up. That's fine. It's on me for not knowing.
think I know, but I'm not going to out myself as an
Yeah.
ignorance.
Yeah.
I was gonna try and say it, but I feel like I'll embarrass myself as well. I know it's like
Yeah.
Max Steak
Yeah, exactly.
Kington or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, so that's why my answer is yes and no further questions.
Okay. Okay. All right. Separate community question then. This one's from Grace Howard, which isn't a person's real name. I've just doxed. It's a Zenless Zone Zero character that they have as their username. They want to know if Colossatron is considered an anti-hero. If there's like an official karma scale for
anti-hero, yeah.
Colossatron. Hmm.
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess it really depends on your perspective, right? Like, it's really up to you. Does Colossatron does Earth deserve to be attacked in the way that Colossatron is attacking them, or should Earth defend and fight against Colossatron? So, yeah, it's up to the viewer. That's the standard cop-out answer with any of those things, but it's true.
that's good.
That's what makes Colossatron such a layered and deep IP. So, it's up to you.
Yeah, you
He's
could be like,
innocent.
is it? Oh, really?
He's innocent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a view. Yep.
It's a good. I mean, yeah. Look, I'll have to. That's another episode discussion. I think a deep dive into Colossatron's story. What if
Could
we
get
have
pretty
any?
philosophical.
Yeah. What if we have any devs who would touch that these days that might have something to say? We'll see. Any more Colossatron questions? Share them with us so we can put them in that episode when the time comes. But fair, up to interpretation. We'll leave it at that for now.
It's not up to interpretation for me, but oh well. To each their own, I guess. We have to respect all of the opinions.
Yeah.
But
I'm happy to go with Carmen's answer. He's good.
Yeah.
He's good. He's good. He's innocent.
You heard
He's
it
just
here.
doing his best.
2 against 1, I'll just
sorry.
jump on that. I agree.
No, you're supposed to say he's not. We need the balance, Keep it
Oh.
interesting. You're supposed to be against him. Yeah.
I'll play it some more, come back with a fresh playthrough and let you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm a Colossatron apologist. I'm sorry, Brendan. I think everyone at this point knows how much I love that game and how much I love that lore. So, oh, by the way, Colossatron apologist kind of sounds like a community comment, which directly leads to our next segment,
Smooth.
which is the community comment. I think you have watched previous episodes. So basically, we will read to you a comment, which you have to guess if it's a real comment from one of our videos, or if it's something that me or Aidan have made up. Just one comment.
Sounds good.
You just say if it's real or fake. And then if you win, you get bragging rights. And if you don't, you have to come back another day and do another round. So the comment that we have today reads, when Barry is Craig, and then a surprise face emoji, kind of like the face, and then confirmed and real exclamation mark. Is
There's a
that
lot of
real or
crazy
fake?
theories about Barry and Craig, so I'm going to say that one's probably real.
Really? Real? Okay.
Interesting.
It's fake.
It's a fake one. I had to step my game up. I was losing too many times. We had to bring a challenging one in. I'm sorry you had to fall victim.
Yeah, it could very much be real. There's a lot of those flying around.
Yeah, there was the Ballad of Barry Steak Fries, right? You were pretty involved in that one, right? That's cool.
Yeah, I wrote that one and directed. Did I direct that? Yeah, I think I did. Again, I've been so many of these things now, I forget. I don't want to credit myself where someone else did it, but yeah, I definitely wrote those and did a lot of the background art, and had a lot to do with the direction on that. So that was a fun project. Yeah.
Do you have a definitive answer? No, actually, I won't ask that. I like the mystery around Craig. No, let's not. That's a.
Oh, we've been working on that for a while. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything hard and fast here and now.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
All that you need to know is that he is now racing on Jetpack Joyride Racing. That's it. That's literally the only thing you need to know about him, and that he's a good guy. I think.
Okay, that's fair.
He is.
I'd say Craig's a good guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Craig's a good guy.
If we could say Colossatron's a good guy, we can say that Craig's a good guy.
Craig knows so much. Colossatron, yes, he's a perfect angel, but not Craig. I don't know.
Okay. At least there's your counterpoint for that one.
He's a good guy
I'd
so
actually
far.
love to
Let's
see
just
him.
say that.
Good guy so far. Ooh, love it. Okay, here's one that we definitely already know a rough answer to. But Brendan, question of the week is where is Dan the Man 2? Question of every day and every week, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say question of every week. Yeah.
Every week, every
Uh,
second.
Yeah. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that by this point, every time someone comments Dan the Man 2 in any of our videos, I think it delays Dan the Man 2 by about a month. So,
Oh no,
in my
what's
experience, yeah, that's
happened.
how it works.
That's where it's gone.
Kind of like a fairy, right? If you say that you don't believe in fairies, fairies die.
That's
It's the
right.
same
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. Yeah. I don't know why our fans keep killing it, but you know, they just do it.
Have you actually haven't asked this yet? I feel like it's a question someone might want to know. Have you had much input on the Dan the Man side of things at Halfbrick? Like story wise or
No,
lore-wise?
not a lot. Yeah, not as much as I have on Jetpack and Fruit Ninja.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have been across it in more indirect ways. But yeah,
That's cool.
I
So
think that's the
lore-wise,
answer. Yeah.
lore-wise, it's still a mystery where Dan currently is in timeline.
Yes,
if we're saying that,
it's a mystery to all of us. Yeah.
mystery to all of us. Okay, that's fair.
We
Well, that's
established a few episodes ago that he was on vacation.
yeah.
I don't know why
Yeah.
we keep asking.
Well, Jacob last week from Jetpack said that Barry is stuck in GitHub, like in the Git
Yeah.
repository as well, because that's where the game file is. So, you know,
Maybe he's in a vacation in Git.
yeah, get a vacation in Git. That's probably the most detailed answer we can give people until there's like an official announcement that we can share.
Yeah. Well,
So,
Jacob's the Barry authority, so I'm gonna go with him.
oh yeah, you guys would have, yeah. I'm sure you've worked on heaps of stuff with him over the years. That's cool.
Yeah.
Who came up with the? Sorry, I know I'm adding extra questions. I'm getting excited as
No,
we're
you're good.
talking about it, and I want to know. With the descriptions for like the events and the items in JJ, have you ever had a hand in creating the little tiny backstory stingers for those things, like the jetpacks or the outfits, or is that mainly the devs?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, there's so many different versions of Jetpack that have got
yeah.
like different events and all of that I'm sure I have done a few of them, but you know, Jetpack has been around for a long time and even before my time, so a lot of that stuff is classic, and
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you who wrote a lot of that. Yeah, it sounds weird, but I don't actually know, and I can't remember, and I'm very cautious of taking credit for other people's work. So
yeah, that's fine.
I'm not
There's
sure.
a blindside question. I do know, and I think I can say this on the podcast with reasonable authority, that a fair few, at least a handful of outfits in Jetpack are directly referencing members of the team. Like, I know there's at least one person at Halfbrick who's still with Halfbrick who is in Jetpack as well. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were a few of those floating around, especially back in the day.
Yeah, so that's
I never
cool.
have quite got in there. That would have been cool to have an outfit in Jetpack, but yeah, not quite at that status yet.
Have you ever tried to self-insert in a story here?
I haven't. No. Well, I think you do it naturally whenever you're writing something. So I'm sure there's weird stuff Barry's done that might have been, you know, something from experience, but yeah, again, I couldn't tell anything specific.
Intact?
Or I might not want to tell you anything specific either. So. Well, funny. I mean, not today, and that wasn't. Yeah,
it's
just so happens
in the
not
spirit
today.
of Barry.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Classic unreliable narrator. I'll take your word for it. If that's the right
Lots
phrase.
of similarities.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Well, yeah. We're coming to the end of the interview, so again, thank you so much for coming here, chatting, sharing some insight on Barry. And before we wrap this up, we would like you to ask a final question, which is if you could tell us one thing that the games industry has taught you that wasn't in the job description.
Yeah. I think the thing that, always kind of sticks out to me is that it's always changing, the games industry. So, like I said, with the manuals and all that sort of stuff that I really enjoyed when I was younger, that was what I thought I would be getting into, and it really has changed since then. So, yeah, what you think you're getting into might not necessarily be what you end up in. I mean, I never thought I'd be writing, I never thought I'd be directing and all of that sort of stuff. But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means that, you get taken in directions that you might not anticipate. So it's good to be open to that stuff and put your hand up for things that, might not necessarily be your expertise, but there's plenty of time to learn, and there's no better way to learn than by experience. So yeah, be adaptable, I think, is the best way to handle it, I suppose.
Yeah, awesome. That's probably the most wisdom we've gotten in one episode of the Halfbrick Show, I think. We did have a bunch of questions to chuck out at you, but I would just say very wise, very wise guest. That's pretty much it, Brendan. We won't take up any much more of your time, but thank you so much for coming and sitting with us, letting us put you in the hot seat with all these questions about law. And yeah, we just really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
That's
you.
been fun. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Yeah. Thank you so much. For everyone listening, we hope this has been a fun episode, that you have also acquired some wisdom as well. And please remember that we are always taking in ideas, feedback, and any kind of suggestions in the show at halfbrick.com.
Yep.
It's a great email.
It's always a great email. It's probably one of the best emails Halfbrick's ever created. But yeah, hope it's been an episode that you guys can all look back on with nostalgia. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you for another episode of The Half.
Coming up next time on The Halfbrick Show.
No sneak peek this week, but if you want to keep up with the Halfbrick Show, please remember to follow us in YouTube, Spotify, and all of your favorite podcast platforms. See you then!